Well, appreciate everybody being here for the final session of the day. So we'll bring you home here with hopefully a lively conversation with our friend Nick here, who I've gotten a chance to know a bit in the past. Let's start off with a proper set of introductions. I was up here before with one of the panels, but again, Dan Sterling with Optimove, and we are a CRM marketing platform. We work with brands like Sephora, DKNY. We help engage the customer, use data to orchestrate better customer journeys across all channels, and ultimately increase loyalty and lifetime value. So we're going to be talking about a lot of great customer retention type topics today. And Nick, I'll turn it over to you if you can give yourself a proper introduction. And I believe you perhaps have a little history in this building, or at least with this organization here at Vitamin Shoppe. So,
this organization, not this building. So, my name is Nick Antoniades. Don't try it. Even I struggle sometimes. It's okay. I'm the VP of Lifecycle Marketing at IPSY, which is a beauty subscription company. My background, long background, has always been on customer analytics, marketing optimization, personalization, relevancy, spanning anything from UX all the way to customer enablement and marketing and everything in between. And I've done it in some very, very interesting industries. Fashion, food, beauty, and that way I think it's not the old building of the Vitamin Shoppe quite a long while ago when I built actually the company's segmentation and contact strategy.
Excellent. Love to hear a little bit of the background. Now, let's talk IPSY, where you are now. And a lot of folks in the room probably are familiar with IPSY, but how do you consider IPSY's position within the beauty subscription market? Let's talk a little bit about where does IPSY fit in their lens?
Yeah, so it's a heavy social company, but it started out actually on the discovery side. So there is actually a subscription, but it's not your typical subscription. Part of it is actually curated by us. So there is an element of discovery, there's an element of surprise based on a lot of information that we'll talk about in a minute. And that's the differentiating factor as opposed to I need A, B, C product that I go and buy online on the store.
Excellent. And the company has also grown a bit through acquisition. So just for everybody's, the brief history of some of that with BoxyCharm and that, what does that evolution look like in terms of the company?
Yeah, when we started out, actually, our founder was a social media kind of influencer, built the company originally small boxes, only samples, and that grew, and then eventually we merged with our biggest competitor, a full-size product, which was BoxyCharm. So we brought them together, and then we expanded even further to create an even bigger curated quarterly subscription, which we call Icon Box. So that's where that came from. And then we enhanced it even further for particular add-ons that you can do to manage your subscription every month. So we're trying to expand the flexibility to the consumer on what kind of box they get every month.
Excellent. And that might tie into sort of the next question, which is like, the subscription business, the way that it works, and I think you'll share a little bit about this based on what we talked about before, which is, subscription business retention is a different animal than a business where the purchases are more episodic, right, and perhaps even sometimes random. So what's sort of been the approach and the evolution to retention in terms of as a focus and a strategy for IPSY?
Yeah, so it's strange that subscription and D2C are usually lumped together. I found out the hard way. D2C, you actually define retention. They bought the last 12 months, the last week if you're across the last 5 years if you're selling furniture. With subscription, there's actually something very, very specific the person has to do. They have to sign up. When they lapse, they don't just lapse because you haven't seen them for X weeks or months. They actually did something. They pressed that button called cancel my subscription. And getting them back was the same thing. So they are defined much more rigidly, and they're also a little bit harder to move. So, again, very interesting discussion.
Yeah, excellent. So then, in terms of how you use personalization, so you have quizzes, right? So you're getting in a lot of first party information, which obviously in our world with a CRM marketing tool like Optimove, like really understanding what can the brand collect on the consumer to understand them better, and then ultimately engage them better and hopefully improve the rates of retention. So talk a little bit about that. How do you use, whether it's the quiz or even other methods you use to sort of inform those efforts?
Yeah, and it boils down to how do we curate the box? And as a side effect of that, we have enough data to actually use for retention. So there is a quiz that you fill in, is about 20 questions, which you can argue whether it's long or short, but it asks the consumer not only to tell us their interests, their preferences, but their skin tone, their hair color, the style they have, the style they're interested in. And that's what we use to curate them. But we also use that for the contact strategy. So if your preferences for skincare, then we would skew towards that direction. But we'll also use that to communicate more about trends in skincare, about new products in skincare, new brands that we are onboarding for skincare. So your interactions with the brand are being built on how you actually originally talk to us, and then we are actually supplementing that even further with your reviews. So if you're a member, your reviews actually count. We're trying to incorporate your product views as well to enhance it even further. But whatever beacons we can actually identify, we incorporate them and use them.
That's amazing. So it's not just about what actually the products that come in the box are influenced by the data you're getting, but it's also even the messaging that you're doing across different channels.
Absolutely. Even your onboarding journey when you sign up, we include links to, say, social. If you're not comfortable with makeup, for example, we'll send you to how-tos. If you're skewing towards specific brands, we curate that way. So we'll adjust. And it's a never-ending process. There's always more curation. There's always more refinement you can make on how you contact. By bringing those together is a crucial element, because otherwise, then we're nothing more than a company that sells cosmetics.
Right, exactly. That's what I think is really interesting, is that somebody who's the new customer, right, might say, okay, this is a skincare person, but then what you're saying is you're looking at them over time as well, because their preferences, their needs, those kind of things are changing, and you're updating that information, it sounds like.
We're enhancing it and upgrading. So we may actually even ask you to upgrade your quiz, but we'll enhance it and saying, okay, you said you like skincare and you keep buying mascara. Join the mascara as well and see what happens.
Interesting. Now, how this just like keeps like spawning more questions for me. So obviously, the people at your organization who are in charge of selecting the products for the boxes and focusing on what does a consumer actually get when they use the product, versus the marketers who might be deciding on a content campaign or messaging. How are you guys essentially reading off the same song sheet? And just like how is that coordinated? Maybe it's not always coordinated perfectly, and that's fair too, but that just seems to me like something. So how would you say that gets coordinated between those two efforts to reach the consumer?
Yeah, so in a very, very unoriginal way, we call it the IPSY match, which is basically the profile we create from your information. And we both tap into that profile to curate the product, which of course turns back and comes to marketing, so we actually know what to tell you that you're getting. But we both tap into that same profile match in order to talk more about specific areas or which products to curate. There is always more. Is it perfect? No. Can it get better? Absolutely. It's a more first defensive, make sure you get it good before you start getting it better.
Right. And then when the consumer receives the boxes too, they're giving that feedback back on what they liked and what they maybe didn't like. Is there that sort of feedback loop from the customer?
There is, yes, there is. There is the reviews. We try to get more of them to talk to us. Right. And not everybody does. Most don't. We'd love to get them to interact more with the brand. That usually spurs more interaction, spurs more data. The more data you have, the better you can use it, the better the results. But even the interaction itself generates retention. It generates affinity with the brand.
Okay, so we're going to talk about channels next, but with that, to that point, where do you see, if you're trying to increase the amount of interaction you get, what are some of the ways where you see the best interaction? Where do you feel the feedback loop is the best?
So there are certain contacts that we all share. If you need to see, you all share. They are the boring transactions. And that's my pet peeve. Most of us will actually look at those. We might not look at the marketing. But I'm going to look and double check my auto confirmation. I'm going to check my bulk set sheet, the credit card verification. Those are massive opportunities to actually incorporate elements of interaction and also data collection. If you go down that path, check with your legal. Because some of those are required by legal to be certain way. There is a minimum of space that you can actually use for marketing. I'm not kidding you. So make sure you check with legal before you do that.
Okay. And if you think about the channels where you reach your customers, how are you ensuring consistency across those different channels? Whether it's social, whether it's a direct channel like email, whether it's other forms of mass advertising, or even your website. What goes into ensuring kind of a consistent brand experience? Or do you feel like there's improvements to be made in that area in terms of the consistency?
That was actually really impressive. When I saw it, it's a thematic journey of each month becomes a box, becomes a story, which filters up into social stories, into journeys through email and SMS, through unboxing experiences. So all of those things feed off the same journey or the same stories that we create each and every month. And some overlap. If you see our content during summer, you see July and August are very similar. Skincare, SPF, which I don't use because I'm Greek and I don't care if I get sunburn. But apparently that's a big thing.
You missed one of the morning panels, I think. There was definitely a lot of talk about skincare and sunscreen.
Yeah. So you will see commonalities. We don't reinvent the wheel every month. Is there more evergreen stories that we can do? Yes, probably there is. But it's the connectivity between me and or me being CRM channels, email, SMS, push notifications, the site content, which is also social channels, are all feeding from that story of what we are talking to them, what we are enhancing. If it's a month where we bring a curated box for icon box, we'll be talking about that. Who's the key person? John Legend was the last one that we did.
Yeah, you do.
So that one is actually fairly well said.
Yeah.
But again, it actually goes back to data, believe it or not.
Right.
Because those stories contain metadata. Skincare metadata, SPF SKUs, SKU not SKU, SKEU, SKU totals there, to more of those. So that's metadata we use because we have to match that metadata to your metadata that we have on the IPSY match to bring those together.
Got it. Now you touched on this a little bit earlier, but for the audience here, so this progression from the IPSY box to is Glam, or what was the BoxyCharm, full product, and then to the icon box. Talk a little bit about that journey, how you take the customer on that, or even identifying like which customer might stay within a certain type of box. Like how does that work? Because originally it was just IPSY, and as you've grown and scaled as a company, they now have these different levels essentially. So talk a little bit about how you see the customer journey throughout those different offerings.
So it's tiers essentially, and yes, no secret, we want everyone to be on the biggest box, the most expensive box, that has bunchy box. But there are people that get the sample box every month for years, in fact, and they're very happy. And go there and keep them happy. That's where customer data and analysis comes into play, because not everyone will move, but you need to be able to figure out how you're going to identify the one that would be interested to move. And we're getting there.
Okay.
There's still a lot to learn.
Yeah, this is where our world comes in a lot. This is where Optimove, using data science, loves to geek out on things like Markov chain analysis and things like predictive future value. So it's definitely something we think about and really interesting. So in general, like subscription, obviously, you hear about consumers talk about things like subscription fatigue, right? And that. So what do you feel is like the biggest challenge when it comes to retaining somebody over the long run?
So it's having the ability to recognize the beacons. You don't know who's going to leave. Yes, somebody has a bad experience because we messed up. Okay, there's absolutely nothing I can do. But how do I get to understand when the person starts disengaging? Is that pausing? Is that a good sign or a bad sign? It's July. It's Christmas. Maybe they're not. How do I read the tea leaves, in essence? Which they're not tea leaves, they're actually
Data points, yes, yeah.
As an analytics person, I should not be using the tea leaves, but okay. To recognize the signs in order to do something. So there's two parts. Recognizing when the risk of churn increases and figuring out what will actually keep that person. Is it an offer? Is it more content? Is it leave them alone, calm down, be better than they can? Well, that actually is a valid segment of the population. So that is a massive initiative which I started of how do I segment the customers based on actions of the lifetime value or the future lifetime value, to be more precise. That's again testing, optimization, analyzing the actual campaigns that you're doing to figure out who did work for and who didn't, so you can actually further refine.
Right. So that data part is so important to really analyze it, especially in the subscription business and dealing with the sometimes challenges that you might have if somebody decides to just cancel and they're a little harder to coax back.
Right. Unlike the D2C, it takes a lot of effort to get you there. It's very easy to lose you, and it takes a tremendous effort to bring you back. It's not like in the D2C where you vanish for 7 years and suddenly you're back and you're back. Great, welcome back. I have to coach you and figure out how to get you to press that button that says resubscribe.
Got it. So what's an example for people? I think you told me one before of a brand you're inspired by, but like what's for the audience, what's a subscription brand that you think does a good job outside of IPSY, obviously, all the things you guys are doing? Like what's a brand that you look to that you feel does it right in terms of the subscription model?
It's such a boring example. I'm sorry, it's such a bad thing. It's Costco. For a very simple reason. One, to get your value. Two, for a bare bones boring brand, they've managed that surprise and delight really, really well. You walk in, I ended up buying bao for my 14-year-old. Bao from Costco. And so many other things. So there is a level of exploration that they managed to incorporate and a level of surprise. You're suddenly going in, wine, milk, and this and that. Fine. I haven't actually looked at how they're managing the merchandising on the eyes and the navigation of the traffic, but I'm pretty sure they figured that out. But they've managed to get you to throw more stuff into that basket and actually be happy about it. And you still get your value.
Excellent. Costco, good one. Maybe not as boring as one might think. And they certainly have a lot of fans of the brand. Like there is, talking about the topic of brand affinity and that, like people do go nuts over it, even though it's not like from a flashy brand perspective, not the flashiest brand ever, but interesting. So final question, then we will take some questions from the group here. We have a few minutes. So what, for folks in the audience here who may be already in the subscription space or would consider it, like what kind of advice do you have for folks who are getting involved in the subscription marketing business?
Yeah, there is such a risk to assume that you have the customer and they're just there to stay because they signed up. They're not. It's such an easy thing to leave, and it gets harder and harder. So the nurturing part of a subscription is crucial, and we are pushing to do more. But so many other brands are not doing any of it. It's just an assumption. Yeah, we got the funnel. Yes, we got a ROAS that worked. It's actually not a ROAS. It's actually cut, and it's easy to cut, but that's supposed to. Great, it's here to stay.
That assumption.
Yeah, if you're not nurturing them, if you're not working hard to keep them and motivate them, you will lose them. Faster than you think.
Right. Then you have a real big churn problem. So looking at that and really focusing on it. Yeah. Awesome. So I want to turn it over to the group here. Questions for Nick? No, it's the end of the day. Oh, we're counting on you. Okay.
I feel like this is a good segue from what you just said with subscription churn. How do you think about continuing to fill the funnel, driving new customers? I feel like we heard a lot today about influencers, video, digital. What are the channels that you see working well?
So, yes, social, but because our roots are social. We started with an early influencer. Having said that, content is key for us. So, the how-tos, the knowledge of all of the new brands, the brands that came more for the economy, for the environment, and so on. Those are critical components. So some traditional channels come into play. Your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and so on. Great. TikTok is also building up because for us it's very easy to work not just with influencers, with our own subscribers, to kind of get them to post, to get them to shine, to do the unboxing of the box itself. So there is a lot of that going on, and believe it or not, direct mail actually is working. As strange as it is, it's still alive, and it's actually working if done properly. Blast on a direct mail, don't. Targeting people based on your, based on your future machine learning lifetime value. That's how you do the targeting, because it is costly. But unlike every other channel, it's 90-something% view rate. People will still look through their mail. So if you catch them with the right messaging or the right person that will resonate with the brand, you probably have enough conversion rate differential from email and everything else that will actually give you the better ROI.
And are you doing, you have lapsed customers who might receive a direct mail, which makes sense because you had them in at one point, right? So their chances are better. But from a pure acquisition strategy, you have prospects or folks you can go out to within the network that have you've assessed as a higher potential value.
There is the lapse is actually a better opportunity, more responsive than the acquisition.
Right.
But both are working. They're improving over time.
But the money you put into direct mail can have that return.
Oh yeah,
that's great. Other questions for Nick?
I'm an IPSY subscriber. I love it.
Thank you.
So what's always interesting to me is some of the brands like I've never heard of before, and maybe that's just because I'm old. Maybe like they are trendy and I just don't know. But like, what's that like? Like, is there a relationship where there's collaboration with the brands? Like, is there a merchant team that brings them in, and then how do you develop a relationship and a collaboration with them?
There is a brand team, there is a merchandising team, there is a partnership team, all working together to find brands that we want to include based on what we know and what the expectations are of the customers, and find the ones that are willing to participate, because not all do. So there is a little bit of a whom do we want, and out of the ones that we want, who's willing to come on board.
But do you require them to do anything to like promote it, like socially, that kind of thing? Like, are there any things that you expect from them and need them to do to become a partner?
Actually, it's the other way around. We offer them the exposure through the brand, through the box, through the subscriber universe, through our labs, through our social media, to expose the brand, especially the younger ones, the newer ones that want that kind of exposure. The more established brands, usually they're like, it's more a financial transaction.
Yeah.
Okay, you want this amount of product? Great.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Great question. Other questions from the group for Nick while we have them?
Yeah, Nick, is there a way in which marketers are using data in a way that's chasing their own tail? It's not even worth pursuing a data science solution or something like that because either the insights are just too intuitive or obvious, or is there has there been a data science initiative or data use initiative that just wasn't worthwhile in your opinion? In terms of from a marketing standpoint, whether it be retention, retargeting, or anything like that?
So I'll go from the oldest and most tired buzzword, which is segmentation. Walk into any company, you find at least one segmentation, usually 3, 4, 5, 10 because they always start with, we need a segmentation. How are we going to segment the customers? And my God, we have a predictive model on the customers. How do we report on them? How do we analyze them? How do we understand them? What's that tissue migration reports and massive resources to doing that.
Yeah.
And I always kind of take a step back and always ask, what are we going to do with this exactly? And if there is no goal behind each segment, then it's a nice, wonderful philosophical or intellectual discussion. But it starts with, what are you trying to accomplish? And even if you establish those stakes in the ground, start with lifetime margin, lifetime spend, longer term retention, they're all variants of the same thing. Start there and work backwards. Okay, what drives that decision to stay longer? What are the beacons? And then spread the customers or break them up into those beacons. Nice little sneak peek. If you have a segmentation that does not have new labs, highly profitable, do not do anything except keep them there, then you don't have a good segmentation. And then you're going to have a lot of other things that are unique and interesting,
but not actionable.
but not actionable. Because you need new, you need to onboard them. You have labs because you need to bring them back, and they're the ones that you need to recognize and reward, the really valuable ones, and nothing else. You might need to give them a few points as a recognition. I have a say, here's another discount, here's another offer, come back. They're here to stay. Tell them that you like that relationship that you have and reward them for it, as opposed to, I have a say, I need more dollars of the P&L instead of the quarter. Can you please come and shop? We will done that at the end of the quarter. Send an emergency coupon to everybody.
Nice. Great question. Any others from the group before we wrap it up? Good. Excellent. Well, thanks, Nick. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much.